What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the CrownHoops Podcast. This is the milestone for us. We are on to episode number 50. 50 episodes. That's a pretty big milestone. Pretty excited about that. We got the full crew here. Myself, Jordan Daly, with Mike White, Stacey Collier, and Ben Okazawa. Say what's up, guys.
What's up? What's up? We back just like the NBA.
5-0. Big 5-0, yup.
Pretty intense. I mean, I was looking back at some of our earlier episodes this past week, and originally we started, it was just audio only, and it was just me, Mike, and Stacey. Ben wasn't a part of it yet. Ben would just come on for segments, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was looking at it.
Yeah.
I was like, we never officially brought him in. He just kind of stayed around. It's pretty funny.
Fuck it.
It was pretty funny. Yeah, I was looking at it. I think we did the all times teams tournament, and we brought him in for that, and then it's just he just became a part of it.
That's what it was, eh?
Yeah, I think that was it.
That was a fun segment. That was good.
That was fun. That was a long one too, and I still disagree with the winner of that. But
yeah, me too.
Yeah, but it's crazy to think about the amount of content out there is of us.
Yeah,
it's that's so many hours of stuff, because we've had episodes that are an hour and a half. It's that's so many hours of stuff of just us. That's more than 2 whole days of just watching us. It's uncomfortable.
I don't think I can watch myself that long.
I can barely get through one of our own. It's just so awkward listening to myself. But anyway, to celebrate episode 50, we are going to do a special giveaway at some point in this episode. I don't want to do it right now, to make sure that our actual listeners that listen to the whole podcast will be able to win this giveaway. We're going to be giving away a jersey of the winner's choice and something from the Crown Hoops merch store. So make sure you listen to the whole podcast on how you can win that. But let's get right into it. Today, as we record, it is Tuesday, NBA tip-off day. We got I believe it's the Nets and the Warriors tipping off tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern. So we're looking forward to that. But, the whole NBA season's kicking off. We just came off of the bubble season. It's a very short off season. There's a lot to talk about here. I mean, it's a lot different, where guys are used to a lot of rest, and some guys haven't played since back in March, because they didn't even make it to the bubble. So there's a lot to look at here for that. So I'm pretty excited to get started on that. Just quickly though, to put our predictions in for the year, who is our projected winner of the 2020-2021 NBA season? Ben, we're going to start with you.
It's not even a question, in my opinion. You got to go the Bel Air Academy. Listen, you take the reigning champions from last year and you make them even better. In my opinion, the Lakers got even better than they were when they won the chip in 6 games last year. I got to go Los Angeles Lakers, and I don't think anyone's going to really test them that much.
Okay. Mike, I don't think I really need to ask you, but I'll let you speak it.
Hey, look, man, you already know my answer. You know I'm going with LA. You know I'm going with the Lakers. I will say I think it's going to be a lot tougher this year. I think we'll see the challenge from the Clippers we should have saw last year. We already seen what teams like the Nuggets and the Blazers, they're going to be better this year. So I think it's going to be tougher. I think whoever comes out the East will obviously be tougher than the Heat was last year. But, hey, man, at the end of the day, I'm going with the show, man. I'm going with the show.
All right, Stacey?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot tougher. But at the end of the day, when the smoke clears, the Lakers will be left standing. Like Ben said, you take the champions, you lose some pieces, but you get better somehow. You add the 6th man of the year, 6th man runner-up. You add some great complimentary pieces, Marc Gasol, Wesley Matthews. You at the end of the day, you can't compete with that. There's a lot of basketball IQ on that team. Still got LeBron and AD, who's MVP candidates. It's gonna be the Lakers.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I hate to say it, but I mean, like Ben said, they got better than they were last year. They added some much needed pieces. They actually have depth now. And AD is still relatively young, and he's not at his prime yet. So we'll definitely see some growth from him as well. One thing I want to bring into question, though, is, like we mentioned, they did add a lot of talent. So at this point, if LeBron James or Anthony Davis get hurt throughout the year, does that really even hurt their chances?
Yes, most definitely, in my opinion. I mean, they have a more solid supporting cast than they did last year. But I think if you take either one of those MVP caliber guys away from the team, especially like down the stretch come playoff time, I don't think they could get past the likes of the Clippers. And if they face the Nets or the Sixers or the Celtics in the finals, I think it would be a lot tougher than the Heat were last year.
Okay. Mike, let me ask you this as our resident diehard Laker fan. Are you fine with LeBron James kind of load managing more than usual throughout this season if it means ending with, a fourth seed rather than a first seed?
I'm totally fine with that. That's kind of, I remember last year when we did our predictions, that's kind of what I had anticipated then. I didn't think we'd get the number 1 seed. I thought LeBron would take some games off here and there. I thought AD would take some games off here and there. But as we've seen last year, they came out with kind of a different mentality, and they approached the preseason all the way to the regular season as if it was a playoff game. So this year, I expect to see more of what I predicted last year. I expect to see LeBron take some games off. I mean, he already played his amount of minutes less in his career last year. I think he only played about 34 minutes a game, which is the lowest. So he's kind of already load managing to a sense because he had AD. He had someone to be able to carry the offense. Like you guys said, we've added players like Montrezl Harrell and Dennis Schroeder and Wesley Matthews, veterans who can score, who can take that load off. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him go down to 32 minutes, maybe 30 minutes a game. It kind of really just depends on what we need. But I have no problem with us load managing. We've won the championship. The quote unquote monkeys off our back to get one with LeBron in LA. The pressure's not on us anymore. Now we go out there, we know what we could do when we get in the playoffs. So I wouldn't be mad at that at all.
Okay. And Stacey, kind of over to you here. If the Lakers were to have a downfall, what do you think would cause it? What's something that could really upset the flow of the Lakers?
Injury. That's the only thing I see. Injury. The unfortunate side of LeBron is he's getting up there in age. Age will become a factor. Nobody beats Father Time. And then also AD gets nagging injuries here or there. Last year, Kyle Kuzma struggled with injuries. So injuries will stop the Lakers' run. But, if they stay healthy throughout the season, I just don't see nobody beating them in a 7-game series.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I kind of wanted to bring this to your attention too. I don't know if you guys heard of 538. They're kind of the leading statistician of sports, so to speak. Every year they do their Raptor Ratings, which is kind of how they project who's going to make the playoffs, who's going to make the finals, and who's going to win the finals. They released their list this year. And I got to say, I'm very surprised by some of these ratings. So they agreed with all of our stances. They have the Lakers with the highest chance of winning the finals at 21%. And right after that is where I get very surprised. And for me, it's a pleasant surprise because the number 2 team they expect to win the finals is the Boston Celtics with a projection of 17% chance of winning it. And a 32% chance of making it to the finals. That really surprised me. We weren't able to do it last season, and I think that's probably one of the strongest teams we've had. And this year we lost some players, and we didn't really replace anyone. In my opinion, we had a huge fail of an offseason. We didn't get better at all while all the teams around us did. So it was really surprising to see the Celtics there. And I'll kind of go down the list. After the Celtics, they have the Bucks, then the Clippers, then the Sixers, then the Nuggets, and then the Raptors, and then the Heat. So it's very surprising to me to see the Heat all the way down there.
Wait, you ain't say Nets?
No, the Nets keep going. So
wow,
you have the Heat, then the Mavericks, then the Suns, then the Jazz, then the Rockets, and then the Nets.
Jazz?
No way.
They gave the Nets a whopping 1% chance of winning the NBA Finals.
Wow.
I think
1%.
somebody hate Kyrie. I think
this is Jordan who runs this site.
Joe work at 538.
Yeah.
I wish. No, I would give them a 0% chance. I'm not going to get into this again. But yeah, I mean, the biggest surprise is there for me, right, is, the Celtics at 2, the Raptors above the Heat. No offense, Ben.
Raptors should be higher. Raptors should be number one. I don't know.
Where would you realistically place the Raptors on this list?
I mean, yeah, they would be. I mean, I think above the Heat isn't anything crazy. I think above the Nets is insane. I think all the teams above the Nets is ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, I realistically see us like second round ceiling type of situation. But I mean, I think it's the same for the Heat. So for me, being over the Heat isn't anything crazy. Being over the Nets is absolutely ridiculous. Anyone being over the Nets, other than let's say the Lakers, to me is kind of just out of pocket. I mean, they've got KD and Kyrie. KD looks great coming back from injury, which was a big question mark. He looks good. And hopefully they can get some load management for him as well. And hopefully Kyrie stays healthy, and they've got a solid supporting cast around those guys. So I don't know.
I mean,
what the thought process was there for 538, but it's pretty crazy.
I would still put the Bucks and the Clippers over the Nets as far as like odds on favorites to win the championship. Thing about the Nets is first chemistry is a factor because KD and Kyrie haven't played together officially in the NBA season, regular season, and then other guys got to take a step back. Spencer Dinwiddie, Caris LeVert, like what's their role on this team now? How does Jared Allen fits in the equation? And then also number two, injuries is a concern for the Brooklyn Nets. I'm not even KD. I think KD gonna be fine, but Kyrie gets hurt at some weird points of the season. It's been like that for him. And Caris LeVert is battling injuries. He always get hurt, and he missed a whole bunch of games at different points of the season. So they still a little bit questionable to me. I feel comfortable with the Lakers, the Bucks, and the Clippers as like the top three favorites.
Yeah.
Yes, I would have to say like with the Nets. I mean, yeah, I'm a Kyrie hater. I just think there's too many ball dominant guys on that team to make it work. But regardless of that, and this is the first year I've said this, I'm afraid of the Bucks this year. I would take the Bucks over the Nets. I think the addition of Jrue Holiday is huge for the Bucks. Paired with Giannis Antetokounmpo, he finally has, a true facilitator in that aspect of things. So I think the Bucks are a real threat this year. This is the first year, like I said, I'm genuinely afraid as a Celtics fan of the Bucks. The Nets, no, I'm still not too high on. I think they have them way too low on this list. I will say that. All bias aside, I think they're way too low. But yeah, I still would take the Bucks over them.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say when it comes to the Nets, Stacey, you kind of hit everything that I was thinking. Just a few, like, what was it, a month and a half ago, Kyrie was saying we didn't need a coach. So now they need a coach. Steve Nash is in. It's just so many things you got to worry about when it comes to just chemistry. Like you said, Jordan, ball dominant players. KD doesn't need the ball, but all of us know he should be the one with the ball. Kyrie wants the ball. He deserves the ball most of the time, but is he going to take away shots from KD? Then you got a guy like LeVert who's coming into his zone, who's had 50-point games and played good in the playoffs. Then let's not forget Spencer Dinwiddie, another up-and-coming player that they have. So they're going to have to figure out how the shot breakdown is going to go, who gets what. Obviously, KD should lead that path, but I think that's one thing maybe this site is looking at. I think 1% is way too low, like you guys said. They might also be looking at, like you said, injuries. Kyrie's been hurt. Who knows how many of the last couple of years he's been getting knickknacks here, sitting out here. I've had him on fantasy. I will never, ever draft Kyrie Irving again on fantasy just because how often he's missing. So then KD, he's looking good now, but remember, we're back to close to regular season, 72 games. How's he going to look over the course of 72 games? How's that Achilles going to look? Is he going to look as good as he is now? We don't know. I anticipate he is, but at the same time, maybe that's what they're thinking about. 1%, come on, man, that's horrible. Yeah. I don't think the Raptors should be above them. No offense, Ben. When it comes to the Bucks, I do believe they are better, but I am not as high on them. To be honest, my Eastern Conference Finals right now is Philly and Brooklyn. To be honest with you, but anything could happen. Again, it's early. I got to see how things meld. But Nets at 1% is laughable to me.
Okay, so we'll kind of move on from the 538 predictions, whatever you want to call it. I guess you could carry it over to this next topic too. I want to talk about some sleeper teams you guys are watching this year. And I don't mean sleeper as in a team that may sneak into the playoffs. I mean a team that could do some damage in the playoffs that may be overlooked. So, for example, as they were last year, my sleeper team, or one of them, is going to be the Nuggets. I think they got a little bit stronger this offseason. And I think they have some young talent that are continuing to develop into potential stars. Over there, you got Ball. I've seen great clips of him and how he's progressing. Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, we saw him develop into a superstar over the course of the bubble last season. So I think the Nuggets are a team to watch, and they're definitely my sleeper team. But I'm curious to see, what you guys have to offer in terms of your sleepers. So, Stacey, we'll start with you.
I had the Nuggets too. I'm very high on the Nuggets this year, but my number one sleeper team is, and Mike brought them up, the 76ers. The 76ers are a healthy Embiid, a healthy Ben Simmons. Then you surround them with shooters. They have Seth Curry now. They have Danny Green. They have Dwight Howard as a backup. Matisse Thybulle, fantastic defender. And then now they have head coach and Doc Rivers, who, he can bring the best out of them. He can bring the best out of them. And the 76ers, that last year they should have been competitive in the East, and they should have went to at least the Eastern Conference Finals. But we all know what happened. Injuries happened to Ben Simmons. So if Doc Rivers can develop that game, tweak their game a little bit, then I could see them coming out the East. It's not, it's not out of the question for them to be Eastern Conference champions. But I don't think people pick them because, injuries and then, what transpired with Doc Rivers last year. But they still a sleeper team in my eyes.
Stacey, I don't know if anyone watching did you see this right here? This is my bed. I'm gonna keep sleeping on the Sixers. I hate the Sixers, man. Y'all know that. No.
Hey, listen,
Anyway.
what I will say about the Sixers though is this team is way better than last year's team, because you're taking Embiid and Simmons. You get rid of Al Horford, who was sort of just dead space on that team, to be completely honest. He wasn't in the best situation. And you add guys like Danny Green and Seth Curry. So that's shooters. That's really good shooters around your sort of non-shooting players. Like, you really don't want Joel Embiid shooting that much. He can. But you want him inside where he's supposed to be dominating the paint. Ben Simmons the same. You want him driving the lane. And then you have actual shooters to surround them with. So I think they got better. I think the Sixers got better. And I agree with Stacey. I think people are sleeping on them. But yeah, I mean, I'll just go into my sleeper. I think it's the Miami Heat. And I was talking about this with Stacey the other day, but for a team that just made the finals and pushed an incredible Lakers team to 6 games behind some great performances from Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, who unfortunately was injured for part of that series. I mean, people don't even, like, it's with the 538, like the Raptors above them, which I'm okay with as a Raptors fan, but I mean, this is a team that just made the finals. You got Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, one of the, I would say top 7, maybe even top 5 duos in the league. And then you got young developing talent, Tyler Hero, shooters like Duncan Robinson. And then even guys like, you had Precious Achiuwa, who sort of like fits their culture and mindset, in my opinion, in that he's just a tough, free player. He had 13 and 15 against the Raptors in the preseason, so he's sort of looking like a double-double machine coming out of Memphis. So yeah, I mean, I don't think people are giving the Miami Heat the respect that they deserve right now.
I would definitely agree. I mean, even looking at fantasy basketball and the draft boards, it's like all the Heat players were so far down the board compared to everyone else. It's just like, I don't know why people aren't expecting the Heat to come out and do what they did last year. I think a lot of people see it as, a fluke and they got lucky. It's like, if anything, they got unlucky thinking about all the injuries they dealt with throughout the postseason. And I think Jimmy Butler will continue that trend. I mean, they got a lot of young guys that will continue to develop. Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson. We saw all those guys kind of come out of their shell in the bubble. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to do, back to normal now. I think they'll continue to develop for sure.
Yeah, and I'm not saying they're going to go back to the finals or win a championship or anything, but I think they're going to do better than people are giving them credit for, because I don't even see anybody mentioning the Heat as contenders.
Yeah, I would completely agree. Mike, how are you feeling about your sleepers? Who are some of your sleeper teams?
So my original sleeper was the Sixers. I think you guys hit about every nail on the coffin on them. New coach coming in, Doc Rivers. Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, that much talent. All they got to do is put it together. Danny Green, Dwight Howard, I love those additions to that team. Tyrese Maxey, I like that draft pick. I think the Sixers are a real sleeper. But just to bring up another team who may not be as much of a sleeper, but no one's picking them outright, I'm just going to go with Dallas. I mean, we saw what they almost did to the Clippers. Honestly, they should have won that series. Luka, a lot of people have Luka as maybe the MVP this year, so where he's going to take another step. They brought in a guy like James Johnson, some toughness. They still have Jalen Brunson. They still have Trey Burke. They still have Maxi Kleber, and they still have Porzingis. Again, if this team is healthy, they're one of the most dangerous teams in the playoffs. Remember last year, they were scoring offense at a record pace. I mean, if Porzingis doesn't go out, I mean, we're talking a whole different story last year about the Mavericks coming in. So I'm going to go with the Mavericks. I think they have that player who can, shift the power just as much. Luka is one of those generational type talents, and I think he has a good supporting cast around him. They've got shooting. I think they need a little bit more defense. I like the pickup of Josh Richardson. He fits what they're trying to do over there. But I think this team could really make some noise, especially if depending on how the seeding in the playoffs go.
Yeah, but Porzingis health is a big question. I don't even think he's going to be available till late January or something like that. Mm-hmm. Somewhere in January, it's just crazy. His health is.
And that's the big question about him. That's the only question. Will Porzingis be there? Because he presents that same type of problem that I love to talk to y'all about AD about. Yep. Who's going to guard Porzingis? 7'3", could pull up from 3. He's got handles too. He's got a mid-range. He can get in the paint. So his health is so important when it comes to that team's future. But if it is there, hey, they got a puncher's chance to me.
There's another team I want to talk about that everyone's already kind of counted out this year, even 538 giving them less than a 1% chance of making the finals. The Warriors. Steph Curry's coming back. Stacey's quickly disagreeing with me.
Nah, I'm sorry. They don't have that championship team no more. I'll say this.
I'm not saying they'll win the championship, but there's a chance that they can make a run. I mean, you can't sleep on Steph Curry.
Yeah, but Steph Curry, I picked him as one of my MVP candidates. However, this team, defensively, I don't buy into him at all. I don't trust Andrew Wiggins defensively. I don't really trust Kelly Oubre defensively, even though I think he's an up-and-coming player. Draymond Green, where is he exactly? Is he going down or is he going to climb back up? Klay Thompson, makes up a lot of ground for them defensively, and them not having Klay Thompson just obliterates their chances, I think, to reach the NBA Finals again. And their bench is not the same as it was years ago. They got a lot of young guys, developing guys coming off the bench, and then they still got to work in James Wiseman too. So it's going to be a couple of years before we see Golden State make a huge run in the playoffs.
Okay, well, Warriors aside, I mean, I think some other teams that we could watch is the Suns and the Timberwolves possibly make a run. And I think they're kind of slept on as well. I mean, Suns got Chris Paul, so now they're looking at Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton. They got Jay Crowder as well. I think Jay Crowder is an extremely slept-on player. I think he's a really great asset to have for a team. That's a nice little team, and I think they could make a little bit of a run. And I'm not going to go crazy and say I think they can win the NBA championship or anything like that, but that is a team I think could make a sneaky run, as well as the Timberwolves. You got D'Lo, you got Cat. I think that's a pretty good team right there. If they can just figure it out and try to make somewhat of a run. Again, 538 has the Timberwolves less than a 1% chance of making the finals and only a 31% chance of even making the playoffs. But like I said, I think there's a chance. Again, I'm not saying these are NBA Finals caliber teams. I'm just saying I think there's a chance that they could make a run.
Let's see.
No, nothing.
I mean, okay. So the Suns, I think they are a very talented team. They'll scare you in the playoffs. But I think we kind of hit on this a couple of weeks ago. I still think, even though you got Chris Paul and Jay Crowder, Devin Booker hasn't been to the playoffs, DeAndre Ayton. They've got some young guys on the bench like Javon Carter or Cameron Payne. Those guys are going to be asked to play some Cameron Johnson, I believe. Those guys are going to be asked to play some big minutes. So depending on where that seeding is, the West seeding is going to be tough to figure out because you think about all the teams that were in the playoffs. Now think about some of the teams that missed. We got the Suns. Who's going to sub in and sub out for them? You got the Pelicans, who I think is a little bit slept on. No one's really talking about them, but Zion seems to be in shape. And in shape Zion is what? What was he averaging last year? Like almost like 20 something, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, something crazy like that. I could be wrong, but that's another team. They brought Brandon Ingram back. They still got pieces over there. So it's just a lot of little teams here and there that can make a run. I think seeding is going to be really big. Minnesota, like you said, they got D'Lo, they got Cat, they got Anthony Edwards, they got Malik Beasley. They got some pieces there, but ultimately that bottom of the West, and this is why the play-in tournament is going to be probably one of the more entertaining things this year. It's going to be crazy because someone's got to come out, and I just can't distinctively say who it's going to be. I mean, only one team I can see from the West playoffs falling out for sure right now, and that's OKC. Other than that, it's a toss-up, and we have a lot of good teams. So it's going to be interesting. Like I said, like you said, Jordan, any team can really make a run if they're healthy and they get a good matchup like people say the Lakers had last year. So we're going to see.
Yeah, West is going to be nuts. The West playoffs is going to be an absolute brawl.
Oh, I forgot to bring up one team. My bad. I'm sorry. What y'all think about the Hawks, man? Trae Young, Rajon Rondo, Clint Capella,
They better get in the playoffs. They better get in the playoffs.
Like a 7 seed. Man, I think Gallinari was a huge add for them. And Rondo as well next to Trae Young. They're gonna be a tough team. They're gonna be a sneaky like 7-8 seed that actually gives the 1 seed some trouble, maybe.
Wizards too. Watch out, Brooklyn. I'd love to see Brooklyn versus Washington in the first round.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I think Atlanta is definitely a good team, and I think they're definitely slept on. I'm personally a big fan of John Collins, but I don't see it with Washington. I just don't see it with Washington.
You got to see if Westbrook gonna work. I mean, he in the East now, man. Like he can dominate a lot of them guards over there. Like,
and don't forget Bradley Beal.
Yeah, and you got Bill to play off. They got Bertrand, who just got $80 million. I mean, they got some pieces. Thomas Bryant, I like him at center. So I mean, I don't expect him to go far, but Westbrook in the playoffs, it's always entertaining, even if you know the outcome.
Yeah, for sure. Ben, did you already say your sleeper teams yet?
Yeah. I went with Miami.
Okay, that's right. Miami, all right, but
Philly. Yep.
Moving on from teams, let's talk players, right? Who are some players you think that are going to really make a big jump this year? And I'll start off right off the bat with this one. I think a lot of people have forgotten about him, and that's John Wall. John Wall's coming back this year. He hasn't played in almost 2 seasons. I'm really excited to see what he's going to do this year. If you play fantasy basketball, he's either going to bring your team straight to the finals because you got him late in the draft, or he was a waste of a pick. So I'm curious to see how that's going to play out as well. Mike, what's your take on John Wall this year?
I'm excited for John Wall. He looks healthy, looks good. I wish Harden would buy in and end up staying, but it's sounding like he's going to end up ultimately moving. But I'm ready to see the bounce back year. Sometimes, man, you got to change spots. Sometimes a change of scenery is good. So he's in Houston. It's kind of like a fresher breath air. You got DeMarcus Cousins, who's working his way back too. Christian Wood, Eric Gordon. You still got some guys over this. Still got James Harden as of now. So I think the supporting cast is good as of now. I think the Houston is still a playoff team. As far as his individual year, I expect to see him bounce back. Probably not an all-star, but something like 18 and 8 assists, something like. I think that's good for his first year being back. Could win comeback player of the year. So I'm excited for him. Hope he stays healthy.
Stacey, how you feeling about John Wall?
As I stated, John Wall is one of my favorite players to watch. I'm like Mike. I'm hoping that he stays healthy throughout the season. I'm hoping that he puts up his numbers because he deserves it. Just been through it with Washington past 2 years sitting out. I do think he'll put up maybe 18 to 20, then pile on the assists, especially if James Harden changes his mind and stays. I think we'll see John Wall's assists increase. One thing John Wall does have to work on, he got to work on being a little bit more efficient with his shot, increases shooting percentage. But other than that, I'm just excited for him to be back on the floor, and I hope he stays healthy.
All right, Ben, how you feeling about John Wall?
Yeah, I mean, listen, same with Stacey. I used to love watching John Wall. I mean, he's one of those guys where for a little while there, he was easily a top 5, sort of borderline top 3 point guard in the league for a time. And just super fun to watch. I mean, with the steals, assists, points, he was definitely a perennial all-star for a minute there. Obviously, a lot of unfortunate situations happening as far as his health, but it looks like he's back in full force now. So hopefully, he has a good season. And yeah, I'm honestly, I'd been talking about this with Stacey on Stacey on Sports the other day, but I mean, I think the Rockets might miss the playoffs if James Harden doesn't play, because if you're depending that largely on John Wall's health, I think you're in for a bad situation. You're in for a disappointment if you're the Rockets and you're depending on John Wall's health, and then your best player is Christian Wood, and I don't think that's even an 8 seed if that's your best player in the West. So it's going to be tough to see. I hope he stays healthy though, and I hope the Rockets do well this season.
All right, so Stacey, we'll go back to you. Who's kind of, a player you're expecting to make a big jump this year?
Okay, so I'll roll down 3 players. I think the obvious player to make a huge jump is Jason Tatum. My boy Jason Tatum, your boy too, Jordan. It's the time. He's trending to that point to where he could be a superstar, possibly an MVP candidate in a couple of years. So he has to take the reins of the Boston Celtics, get better shot selection and everything. But I'm looking for him to average like 25 a game, 25 and up. He has the skill set to do that. Couple other players I do want to mention, Jamal Murray. Okay, we seen you in the bubble. We seen how you do. But can you do that in the regular season? Can you do that when you travel on the road? Can you keep that up? Can you be a superstar now? Because that's what it's going to take in order for you and the Nuggets to get past the Lakers in the playoffs and go to the NBA Finals. You got to be a superstar. You got to be there. And another player, and he needs to improve. He really do, given what's been happening in the past couple of weeks. Lonzo Ball. Everybody in his draft class got contract extensions except for him. Like Markelle Fultz just got a contract extension. He only averaged them more points than Lonzo. So Lonzo definitely got to step up. I think he will though. I seen his form, his release on his jump shot looks a lot better, and hopefully he'll make some free throws and some layups. God damn, man! You got to hit those.
All right, those are good lists. I mean, speaking of Jason Tatum, yes, I expect him to make a jump, but one of my biggest sleepers is not Jason Tatum. It's actually his teammate Jaylen Brown. I think we're going to see a big jump from Brown this year with Hayward gone. I think, Tatum's already been that number 1 guy. I think Jaylen Brown's that clear number 2 now. So I expect to see him take a pretty big jump and a significant increase in some of his stats as well. Now that Hayward's kind of out of the question, I feel like Hayward, great player. I wish him the best. I kind of think he was a little bit of he kind of dragged the Celtics down in a way that, and it's not really his fault. I think Brad Stevens just like overplayed him sometimes and rushed him back from injury. And I think with him out of the situation now, I think that's going to give a little bit of a jump to Jaylen Brown. And I think a lot of people sleep on the Celtics in that aspect. Yeah, we lost Gordon Hayward, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think it's a bad thing that we didn't replace him with any bench talent, but I mean, I expect to see Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown both make a pretty significant jump this year. But, yeah, kind of move on. Mike, what are some players you expect to make that big jump?
All right, so I got 3 players that I would bet on it. I would bet on all 3 of these players that they're going to make big jumps this season. First person, Ja Morant. Ja Morant's going to make a big jump. Point guards in their second season. Game slows down. I mean, I've seen him in preseason already. He looks good, bouncy. He's going to be better this year. He's been through it. Almost made the playoffs, missed out, unfortunately. I mean, this guy is young. Like I said, we were giving him big props before he got drafted. We thought he'd be rookie of the year most likely. So I think he's going to make a huge jump this year. My next person is Zion Williamson. I think he's going to make a huge jump because I think I'm banking on him being healthy. I think he's going to play the entire season. So if you got Zion for the entire season, he's going to get better as time goes by. He's learning the game again. Another year under his belt. He's going to learn some things here and there. He's going to be on the court more. He still has, like you said, Lonzo Ball, who I expect to get better, who's the ultimate creator. say what you want about Zoe. He'll create for you. You know what I mean? So I think Zion's going to benefit heavily off that. I think Zion's also going to benefit from Steven Adams, but we'll talk about that another time. So Zion's my second person. Last person I think will take a big step, and it's more so because of who they added, is Devin Booker. You add Chris Paul, you take away that creating responsibility for Devin Booker. Hey, give it to Chris Paul. Now Devin Booker is just coming off screens all night. Now he's coming off pick and roll. He's doing all this and that. Chris Paul can handle the leadership. He can handle getting other guys shots, getting other in places. Now Devin Booker can just come in and do what he does best and score. And with Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton, you got to stay honest. So I think because of that, he is going to make a big jump this year, bigger than what he's already shown us.
Okay. No, I like all those answers. Specifically, John Morant, you bring up a point that, historically speaking, point guards do way better after their rookie year. He was a beast last year, so I'm curious to see what he's going to do. But Ben, what are some of your players you expect to make a jump?
First guy I want to mention, and this is sort of piggybacking off Mike, just going in a different direction. The addition of Chris Paul, I think, for DeAndre Ayton is going to be huge. Obviously, for a long time, they didn't have that clear-cut point guard. Devin Booker was handling the ball sometimes, Ricky Rubio. And now DeAndre Ayton as a true 7-footer who is sort of Joel Embiid-like in the sense that he can dominate in the paint. So just having a point guard there who can get you some good looks inside and just sort of draw some of the attention off you on the perimeter is going to be huge for him. I think he's a sort of dark horse for most improved player. Even though he had a good season last year when he was able to play. And then as well, for my next two, I'm going to go sort of guys close to home. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think Chris Paul leaving is another Chris Paul-based one. Chris Paul leaving and Dennis Schroeder leaving and Danilo Gallinari leaving. All these guys take off. Steven Adams leaves too. So now you got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as the prime ball handler, and he was already good last season. He's seeing flashes. His height at the point guard position and length is really important. So I think he could sort of take off this year as that. He's got the keys to the offense now, and he's got a new head coach. He's got Al Horford with him now too. So I think he could be a really good player for OKC this season. And then my last one, I'm gonna say OG Anunoby. Just with, again, the size, he's sort of got that prototypes. He just got paid exactly, so he's sort of got that expectation around him. And then this is like a 6'7", 6'8" wing guy, one of the best defenders, one of the best on-ball defenders in the league. And we saw his three-point shooting sort of develop throughout last season, sort of culminated in that game winner against the Celtics in Game 3. And throughout the preseason, you're starting to see him shot create for himself a bit more off the dribble.
Yeah, those are all good lists. I mean, I really like those, but I don't know. I feel like there's so many guys that I'm expecting to take a jump this year. I mean, Donovan Mitchell is another name I expect to take a big jump this year. We saw that little battle he had with Jamal Murray in the playoffs last season. So there's a lot of names I am excited to see play out this year. But moving on from that, one thing that's been lingering throughout the NBA for the past few weeks is James Harden and his uncomfortable situation with the Houston Rockets. There was a report today that he just recently threw a ball at his teammate. He didn't throw his teammate. Threw a ball at his teammate out of frustration. There's been, ongoing, just aggravation between the city of Houston and James Harden. So it's going to be curious to see what happens with him. Do you think he is going to end up being traded? Do you think he'll just sit out? What do you think is going to happen with James Harden? We'll start with you this time, Ben.
I honestly, the way it's going right now, I mean, he played in the preseason, so I'll expect him not to sit out for the first little stretch of the regular season, but it really doesn't seem like he wants to be there. It doesn't seem like a number of players in the Rockets organization are happy where they are and with James Harden as their teammate, and he's like refusing to answer questions about the whole situation in the media. So it's sort of reminiscent of like Kawhi and Anthony Davis type situations where they end up sitting out, they end up getting traded. So yeah, I mean, I don't expect him to be there for much longer. He was at the strip club, eating those nachos, eating those strip club wings, starting to look a little bit like Rick Ross right now.
That is true.
Yeah, and the beard, it doesn't help, but I mean, It's just a overall situation you don't really want to see, but he deserves to be a diva at the end of the day. This guy's a perennial top 5 player in the league, one of the best scorers of our generation. So, I mean, he deserves to be a diva, but it's unfortunate for the Rockets for sure.
Mike, how you feeling about the James Harden situation?
Hey, so look, I know y'all heard the saying, when it rains, it pours. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been hearing, oh, he doesn't want to come to practice. He's doing this, that, and that. Now we're hearing, oh, he threw a ball at this guy. It's always two sides to every story, man. And right now, James Harden, he's just caught up in a whirlwind of, hey, man, they don't like what the decision you're making. So every story that's going to come out about you right now, most likely out of Houston, it's going to be negative. But even with all that, I think he ends up staying in Houston. I mean, we're seeing, I think yesterday I heard the Miami Heat pulled out the James Harden sweepstakes. It's not a lot of suitors. And if all you're displaying is bad things about this superstar, who would want to mortgage maybe their future or a future superstar they have by trading for James Harden? Do you want him to come in and take over your franchise? You see what he's doing now, or supposedly doing. So I think those are questions that still need to be had. Now, it all depends on how the season ends up really going. If Houston comes out and they're clicking on all cylinders, all of a sudden Harden and Wall look good, Cousins is healthy and he's looking good, then I think he ultimately will end up staying. But if they come out looking bad, and or a team with the right amount of assets ends up looking bad, i.e. the Nets or the Sixers maybe, then I think a trade may become imminent. But right now, man, I think he's just a disgruntled star. He's upset. But look, you got 3 years on your contract or 2 years after this one. I don't think Houston's in no rush unless they make the right trade. So I think we're going to hear all this nonsense right now because ball hasn't started. But once the hooping actually starts, I think we'll hear less of it.
So I'm curious to think, curious for your opinion on how they're valuing him. I've heard that, the Sixers were after him for a while, and Simmons was involved in trade talks. And then I heard rumors about, the Nuggets, including Jamal Murray, in a trade offer at some point. And like you said, there's a lot of risk with going after Harden, hearing all these horror stories of how bad of a teammate he is. How much are you willing to gamble on him? Like, if you're in Philly shoes, are you giving up Simmons for him? If you're in Denver shoes, are you giving up Jamal Murray and a bunch of young prospects for him? Like, how do you value that?
Now that, like, so let's take Philly, for example. That depends on how the chemistry between Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons goes this year. You got Doc Rivers in there now. You got a different coach. I'm sure he's going to bring a different system. He's going to put them in different positions to hopefully have them be successful. So that's kind of dictated on their chemistry. If the chemistry doesn't work, okay, we bring James. If Ben Simmons still won't take a shot, we'll bring James Harden in. We know he's going to shoot. He's going to definitely space the floor. So I think that's how that would work. If we're just talking about the Nuggets, again, do you think you're good enough to beat the Lakers? I mean, that's really the only team I think the Nuggets are looking at because they've already shown they could handle the Clippers. So I think do you think you can beat the Lakers with what you have, or do you need that guy? Now, if you're trading Jamal Murray, and I'm assuming it would be something like Bol and some other young, maybe Porter. I mean, if I'm Houston, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking if it's starting with Murray, okay, I want Porter too, and I want Bol, and I want some bigs. I think that's how Houston is looking at it. But if you're Denver, it's all about how you guys come out this year. You lost Grant, you lost Plumlee. Let's see how you guys come out here with this squad this year. Wait till you match up with the Lakers a few times, see how it goes, and play it by ear. Again, at the end of the day, it's all about matchups when it comes to the playoffs. And if you think James Harden gives you a better matchup than, Jamal Murray, then I say pull the plug.
Yeah, I would agree. It's tough. I mean, if I'm Denver in that situation, even if they get Harden for whatever exchange of players they want, I don't see them beating the Lakers. So I would rather gamble on the young players I have, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Ball, whatever it may be. Let them develop, and then 2 years from now, they're probably the clear favorites. Maybe Dallas if they continue to develop and grow on their roster, but I think Memphis has a pretty exciting future ahead of them. So I'm not messing with too much there. But Stacey, what are your thoughts on the whole Harden situation?
James Harden, I don't know. I've been going back and forth about James Harden being in Houston. I think he should try to make it work. 20-25 games, see how it goes, and if it don't go right, then trade him. But if he's doing all this, and when the season starts, he might not be engaged on defense. He might take plays off here and there and all that. Then if he becomes a problem, you have no choice but to trade him. But the problem with that is, like, the value for him is somebody gonna have to give up a lot to land James Harden. And is there a team that's willing to do that? Okay, the Miami Heat, they pulled out. They pulled out because they don't want to give up Tyler Herro and other players to bring them in. Philadelphia, they're gonna have to give up Embiid or Simmons. Probably Simmons more. Teams like the Brooklyn Nets, they're gonna have to give up Dinwiddie, LeVert, and Jared Allen and all that to bring in. So his value is like it would kill the depth of any team. And like the Nuggets, do you really want to give up Jamal Murray? I mean, I know I would take James Harden over Jamal Murray 10 times out of 10 at their best, but however, you don't want to mess up the chemistry. And then what if it don't work? Now, James Harden probably don't even want to be with Denver. So, unfortunately, I think for James Harden, I think he's going to have to just tough it out. He's just going to have to try to make it work. They not going to get the value for him back. And, he's just going to have to just suck it up. I think he'll probably if it don't work on the court, if their record is bad through 20-25 games, I think he'll get traded. But for now, I think he's staying in Houston.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
What I will say quickly about the Nets, though, is they could probably put together the best package for James Harden, especially if they're willing to give up Kyrie, which I would be if I'm the Nets. Because you already got KD. I think Kyrie, KD, James Harden is already way too much ball dominance. So I'd give up Kyrie instantly. Like Kyrie, LeVert, Dinwiddie, fine. Get rid of them. And then you got Harden, Durant, Jared Allen, DeAndre Jordan off the bench, whatever you want. So, I think the Nets could put together the best package, and I think that would be a pretty beneficial trade for them, to be honest.
And if I'm Houston, any trade with Brooklyn starts with Kyrie. Don't come to me with LeVert and Dinwiddie and so. No. I need a star in return. LeVert and Dinwiddie, they're good, but you need someone who you could just give the ball and get out the way and say, hey, we need you to take us there. And I don't think LeVert or Dinwiddie are there. It all starts with Kyrie if I'm talking to the Nets.
Hey, would they bring in Kyrie now because they got John Wall? So like, how does that work?
You're flipping John Wall.
Flip John Wall, or you find a third team and you find another star to bring in. But now, see how deep we getting into trade talks now. So
I think they're gonna have to. I think they're gonna have to find a third team to make this work. That's the only way it's gonna get pulled off, and everybody wins or quote unquote wins the trade.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you what they should do. James Harden for Taylor Horton Tucker, straight up, 1-on-1. We'll do it. I think the value's there. I mean.
I didn't see James Harden dropping 30 and 10 in the preseason.
In the preseason, I ain't seen it.
Let's go.
That's awesome. All right, let's move on from James Harden. We'll go to the hot take segment. I'll let Ben take it from here.
Yeah, so my first one is from the hot take machine himself. Sort of looking a little bit like James Harden these days. Kendrick Perkins said that Anthony Davis is his lock to win MVP over guys like Luka Doncic, Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I think it's a bit of a reach for sure. I mean, AD obviously is a great player, but anyone playing next to LeBron is going to have a hard time winning that most valuable player award because it's hard to be the most valuable player on a team with LeBron. But Jordan, I'll ask you, who do you think is your lock to win MVP, and is AD sort of in that top tier, guys?
Right off the bat, I want to say Luka. I think Luka has the best opportunity to. He's kind of that main guy on the squad. If there's a second guy, I would go Giannis. AD is not even close in my opinion, just because of pretty much what you said. He's teammates with LeBron. I can't see a teammate of LeBron winning an MVP award. I can't see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Stacey, what about you?
I can. I think AD has a shot to win. I think AD has a shot to win MVP. I'm looking forward this year. I think LeBron's going to defer a little bit more to AD because he already know what time it is. AD is the future of the Lakers. He just signed that extension, and it's time for AD to take over. I think AD can put up the numbers to win MVP, but in front of him, I have Luka and Giannis in front of him. So, but I don't think it's a hot take. I don't think it's a far reach. But having LeBron is kind of tough. But I think AD is going to shine as the number one option on this team now.
Okay, and Mike.
So I think it's a hot take to have him as a lock to win MVP for reasons you guys have already said. But it's not just because he's playing with LeBron. You're just playing with another superstar in general. I mean, we've seen the years Steph and KD were playing together. They're not getting no MVPs. So AD over here with LeBron, I think he'll finish. I think he'll be in the top 5. Don't forget. I mean, he led us in scoring. I believe he led us in rebounding, led us in blocks. He led in a lot of categories. But a lot, nah. I would definitely choose Luka over him. He's definitely my leader. Giannis, like you guys said, but I'm hoping. I think they're gonna kind of start falling back off to just giving Giannis MVP right now. I mean, we got to see him get to the finals. I mean, after a while, seeing you just keep losing and losing. I mean, James Harden ain't got another MVP, right? He keeps losing and losing. I think Giannis has 2 now. That's enough of that. But yeah, I'm gonna go Luka. I'm gonna go. Honestly, I still think LeBron is gonna be up there. Why? Another year older. It wasn't a long off season, so I really expect him to pick up right where he left off. Now, will his minutes be low? Yes, but we know LeBron James. The production is still going to be there. About 24 points a game, close to double-digit assists, 7 to 8 rebounds. That's all still going to be there. So I don't agree that AD is a lock, but I think he'll be in the top 5.
Yeah, that's fair. And then my next one's coming straight from the 2K developers themselves. Whoever makes up those rankings, I don't know if it's Ronnie's dumbass or who else, but
Ronnie 2K, what up?
They've got in the driving dunk ratings, they've got Zion Williamson at number 1, so that's over guys like Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon, and they've got Andrew Wiggins at number 4 over Donovan Mitchell. So I'm just trying to get your guys' thoughts on that. Stacey, start us off.
Okay, Zion. I love Zion dunks. I love when he finished the ball, but I don't think he should be rated the number 1 dunk. He only played 24 games last year in total, 24. We already giving him the world and then some. But Andrew Wiggins, me personally, I never seen Andrew Wiggins dunk in the game. I just never seen it. Now I know Timberwolves haven't been on TV. That's had something to do with it, but I haven't seen it. Maybe you guys seen it. I can't call it, so I don't know about that.
All right, Mike, what about you?
Hey, Wiggins is a high fly. Look, I'm gonna give you your props, Wiggins. Look, you may not be the next LeBron like they said you was, but I know you can fly. Hey, Wiggins can fly. I'm not mad at his ranking. Don't forget, man, the man got a 44-inch vertical. Like Wiggins came in the league ready to at least jump. I mean, maybe not everything else we thought he'd do, but he came in ready to jump. So I know he's a good dunker. Zion being number 1 on driving dunks, I'm not mad at it. But I think other people, he got a 99, you said?
I can't remember the exact
what was his driving dunk? Whatever it is.
Hold on.
Yeah, whatever it is, I think LaVine should have been equal with them. I think Gordon should have been equal with them. I think LeBron should still be up there. And I promise you, y'all know I'm not a LeBron.
Bruh.
Driving dunk? Who's stopping LeBron driving, first off?
Answer that.
Well, who's stopping Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine driving dunk?
I'm not saying they shouldn't be up there. I said they should all be tied for the top. I'm not saying he should be over them. I'm just saying he should be there. Like, I ain't seen a lot of motherfuckers stop LeBron come to the rim. When y'all find them, let me know so I can say, okay, I'll shut up.
Okay. But I want to say, I think LeBron is a different beast, and it has nothing to do with his dunking ability. I think it's because of how much people love LeBron, specifically SportsCenter, ESPN, all that. If LeBron puts you on a poster, that will be everywhere within seconds. So people will specifically get out of the way if LeBron's coming at them because they don't want to turn into a meme.
So that should be a 99. If you get if you're not gonna get in the way of this, There's a reason for it.
But I think there's a separate reason for it. All
right, I'll give you that one. But as far as Zion being number one, I don't have a problem with it. I just think it's other people whose ratings should be just as high.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. I definitely think Vince Carter's being slept on, in my opinion, if you ask me. But Jordan, where do you sort of rank all these guys in the jumble, especially Zion and Wiggins?
Yeah, so I mean, looking at this list of 10, right? I have Levine and Gordon up top. I have Ja Morant, Donovan Mitchell right behind them. Like I said, I've never really seen Wiggins dunk like that in the game. It's just
no one's ever seen Wiggins dunk.
Not
as half of this podcast has never seen Wiggins dunk.
I've seen him dunk, but never like to the capability of these other guys, right?
Yeah.
Derrick Jones Jr., not as much. I feel like for his overall player rating, giving him a 94 driving dunk is kind of ridiculous compared to the rest of his overall ability. That kind of aggravates me. Same with Hamidou Diallo. So I would have groupings. I would do kind of Zach LaVine, Aaron Gordon at 1. I would do Donovan Mitchell, Ja Morant at 2. Man, this is tough.
I don't know. Ja Morant don't be finishing.
I'm trying not to say nothing. You got Ja Morant. We gonna talk about this LeBron thing again. Hold on. You taking Ja Morant driving dunk over LeBron driving dunk? You said Hamidou Diallo.
No, I said Hamidou Diallo shouldn't be that high.
Oh, my bad. My bad.
I said he shouldn't be that high.
Get up out of his seat a little bit.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. Okay, my bad. Do your thing.
I said Hamidou Diallo should not be that high. Same with Derrick Jones Jr. just because of the rest of their overall skill. I feel like 2K is just doing that specifically, at least for Derrick Jones Jr. and Hamidou Diallo, because of their dunk contest performances. I think that's why they're justifying that. Because at the end of the day, it is a game, right? So I feel like that's why they're doing that. I don't like this list. Zion, 5 or 6, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't think he's earned that.
Yeah, I don't know. We got to see a higher sample size. But
Correct. That's what I mean.
He definitely is a bully down there.
Yeah.
Even his standing dunk, I think, could be pretty high. His standing dunk, because he'll just get an offensive rebound and go right back up, and not too many people are stopping that. But
he's just oddly built. It's like weird to. He's
built
just
like a tank.
He's big. I don't know what else to say.
Like a tank, dog.
He's built like a D tackle, kind of.
Yeah, like usually you don't see athletic dunkers doing stuff like that, and he's just.
It's crazy. That's why his injury concern is so high. Cause he's jumping 45 plus inches. And he weighs about 260 pounds. So
man's gonna get some gnarly shin splints.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, no, I agree 100%. I mean, Zion at 1 was a bit high for sure, especially considering the sample size. And I think Donovan Mitchell deserves to be a bit higher than he is. But anyway, I agree with all you guys. That was the last hot take I had today. Jordan, right back to you.
So let's get back to the giveaway I was mentioning earlier. Like I said, this is episode 50, so we want to give away a jersey of the winner's choosing, and we'll do another winner for some Crown Hoops merch off of our store, which is crownhoops.com/store. So in order to participate in this, all you have to do is take a picture or a screenshot of you listening or watching the podcast and tweet us the picture at Crown Hoops. You must be following us on Twitter and Instagram. In order to qualify for the giveaway, we will pick 2 winners at random, 1 for the jersey, 1 for the Crown Hoops merch, and we will be in contact with you of jersey size, all the logistics, as a thank you for listening to the podcast. Make sure you participate. Thank you guys for listening for 50 episodes, and hopefully many more. But moving on, Adam Silver recently hinted at possibly a future where the NBA expands. This is the first time he has said that since he has stepped into his role as commissioner, previously being very opposed to expanding the NBA. So I kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on some possible expansion teams. We'll roll with the idea that they'll probably expand 2 teams, one in the East, one in the West. I have a feeling we're all going to say the exact same team in the West, but I'm more curious to hear what city you have for the East. So Stacey, we'll start with you. What are some possible expansion team cities for you?
Well, let me start off with the obvious. Because I've been saying this for years. Bring back the damn Sonics. Bring them back to Seattle. Seattle deserves the Sonics. NBA fans deserve the Sonics. The NBA in general deserve the Sonics. We need to bring them back. Another West city that's on my plate is Las Vegas, because they just moved in the Raiders. Then they have the Aces of the WNBA, who's a perennial playoff team. So it's probably about time that. And then they had they got the Golden Knights of the hockey team, who in their first year went to the Stanley Cup. So they're trending up. They deserve a team now. The East is tough because the NBA pretty much covered the major cities in the East. But I wrote down a couple. They kind of far-fetched, but I wrote down a couple. Unfortunately, being Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay could do something. They could bring the Raptors down. I don't know. But but if it worked, if Tampa Bay works for the Raptors this year and aesthetically is pleasing and all that, then they probably have another team to cover for the Raptors. But another city I wrote down, and they tend to put them in the West and everything in every sport, but they could play in the East. It's my hometown, St. Louis.
Hey.
We've been asking for a basketball team for centuries.
See, I don't want that to happen. I can't let that happen.
Why not?
Tatum would leave Boston in a heartbeat to go play for St. Louis. So that's a no-go from me.
But we've been asking years for a team. Big NBA heads in the city. Every year they have a preseason game. Hell, it usually be like Memphis, Chicago, or something like that. Big basketball fans in St. Louis, but I know St. Louis is pretty small, and the market is not as hot. That's why the Rams left and came out to LA. But they could work there. Another team, another city I got in mind is Kansas City. Kansas City, they used to have the Kings, and they're even a bigger basketball city than St. Louis. So those cities I have in mind right now.
Okay.
Kansas City, Missouri. Let me clarify that.
All right. I like those picks. Mike, what about you? What are some thoughts from you on expansion cities?
Hey, so look, we already got the obvious ones, the Seattle, the Las Vegas, even my boy said St. Louis. I'm going to say a city ain't nobody finna say, because I'm always rep where I'm from. Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach needs a team. A few years ago, they were actually talking about it. No bullshit. They were actually talking about it a few years ago. There was some early discussions on it, but nothing really came from it. But don't sleep on the 757, man. We got the Portsmouth Invitational, where a lot of future players come out here to play. We got the Boo Williams Sportsplex, where I coach, AAU. We got a lot of names up in those rafters up there. A lot of big-time players come through. This is a basketball area and football. Don't get it twisted. But it's a big basketball area. Virginia Beach is an up-and-coming city. It's already big. We get a lot of tourism, things like that. Man, I think bringing a basketball team here will be great, man. We've got a lot of great players who come from this area, a lot of people who would put money into something like that. So I'm going to say Virginia Beach, man. I'm going to stand up for VA where I'm from.
I like that. Do you have any other cities?
Other than that, it's crazy. This is going to be random as hell. But whenever I be playing the game, sometimes I relocate to Mexico City. Whatever. Hey, I don't know. I like whatever. I relocate to Mexico City. Hey, I always get mad fans and all types of stuff. So that's a random one. I'm going to be honest. I'm not really too big on where a team should go. I'm just ready for my Lakers. That's just me being honest. So
let me ask you this. If a team came to Virginia Beach, would you become a fan of the Virginia Beach and ditch the Lakers? Or would you stick with the Lakers and just be like, yeah, Virginia Beach, your team sucks because you're in expansion, but you're my hometown team?
Hey, so check this. I could never turn my back on the Lakers. Never, never. But I would fully support the Virginia Beach. I'm talking games, all that. I'd fully support them, but I'm always down hard Laker fan till I die, man.
So if it was an NBA Finals between the Lakers and Virginia Beach, you'd root for LA?
Let's cross that bridge when we get to it.
That's fair. I don't think anyone could blame you for switching over. It's your hometown team.
See, that's different. That's different.
Yeah, no one can claim bandwagon because you live there,
Yeah.
All right, so I have two cities that I instantly thought of mainly for business expansion reasons, and I think it would fit as well. And I think I'm going to get some weird looks when I say these two cities. I have 4 cities total, but these are my main 2, Montreal or Vancouver. I feel like Canada is very locked in on the Raptors right now, and obviously Ben's going to know this better than I would and how those demographics are, but I feel like putting a team on more of the eastern side of things, I know Toronto's in the east, but if you add another team up there, it at least allows for more people to get involved, whereas I feel like, and Ben, you can correct me if I'm wrong, people from outside of Toronto may not feel as invested in the Toronto Raptors, or maybe they are just because it's the only team from Canada. But I feel like if they added a new team from Canada, that would add a whole new like factor to it. So I want to get your opinion on that before we do. My other 2 cities were also Kansas City, as mentioned, and then another one I wanted to mention is Louisville, Kentucky. I feel like that's a pretty big basketball area as well.
Yep.
There is some potential for it. So those were my biggest cities, and obviously on the west, I also had Seattle. I'm not even going to bother mentioning it.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, with you guys, I was talking about this with my friends earlier today. One of them did actually mention Mexico City to get the Mexican fans involved, maybe get more fans from the country of Mexico. That truly expands, the NBA's operations, sell more tickets, get more fans. And then another city that one of them brought up, which I disagreed with, but I want to throw it out there for you guys to think about. They brought up Pittsburgh.
See, I wrote Pittsburgh down.
Yeah,
I had wrote them down originally.
Yeah.
Because they got Philly, but I don't know. I don't know if like Pittsburgh is like that deep into basketball. I don't know.
That's what I said, but my friend's argument was that like all other major sports have multiple teams in Ohio, including a Pittsburgh team. So I don't know. I just don't see it working, but I mean, if other teams have been able to, I mean, maybe it's a possibility, but
Pittsburgh's in Pennsylvania, but it's all good. Come on, man. I'm not even from there. Come on. Anyway.
Yikes.
But no, I mean, in close proximity to Philly, I think it is kind of weird. I agree with you. Since it's so close to Philly, I think it's a bit of a stretch for sure, Pittsburgh. But I was looking at Pittsburgh. Also, what I'm gonna say for the Eastern Conference team, Baltimore used to have the Bullets there. Now, obviously, they became the Washington Wizards. But like just in the NFL, you got the Baltimore Ravens and the Washington football team. So you could do the same thing where you got the Wizards and then a Baltimore NBA team as well. So that's my Eastern Conference pick. But I think everything you guys said was smart as well. And then for the West, I was going to go Vancouver, like you said, Jordan. Obviously, we all want to see an NBA team in Seattle, so I just wanted to get outside the box there and say Vancouver. We just have the Grizzlies, obviously. But yeah, I mean, everything you guys said would make sense too. So hopefully we get one in Seattle, but if not, Vancouver would be cool.
So I'm curious on your take for, adding a team to Canada. Right now, is it pretty much like everyone in Canada just roots for the Raptors? Or does it depend on like where they are in Canada? Do you think a new team in Canada would bring in like new people to the sport, more fans? Like kind of curious what your opinion on that is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, right now, obviously, everyone in Canada is who likes basketball is a Raptors fan for the most part. You've got your Warriors fans and what have you, Lakers fans, obviously, Celtics fans. But, I mean, Montreal would be really interesting because Montreal really identifies very separately from the rest of Canada. Like, they tried to separate from the country and become their own country twice. The bill never passed. It's whatever. It was a weird thing in the 1900s. But, yeah, they really identify separately. Everyone, just so you guys know, everyone from Canada, not in Toronto, hates people from Toronto. Except the Raptors. Yeah, it's sort of a whole mindset thing. But Montreal would be interesting because the culture there, the basketball culture in Montreal is huge. I mean, you've got guys like Lou Dort in the NBA who's from Montreal. Kim Birch, who plays for the Magic, is from Montreal as well, I believe. So it's a few guys from Montreal who are up and coming in the league, and Chris Boucher as well on the Raptors backup center is from Montreal too. So it's a pretty big basketball area. So I think it would be cool to see a team there for sure. I don't think the NBA would actually go there, but it would definitely get a lot of fans from Quebec in general to basketball.
Okay, cool. All right, well, let's move on. We had this topic suggested to us from a frequent listener. The topic is, what current NBA player is most in need of a championship? So I'll let you guys think about that for a second, and when you're ready, Ben, I'll have you start this one off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go right off the bat. Most player I most want to see get a championship would maybe be like a Dame Lillard, Chris Paul. But the player most in need of a championship in terms of their legacy right now, I think it's Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's still young. He's only, I think, 25 or 26, but he's been in the league for a long time. He's been an MVP back to back. He's probably going to be an MVP candidate for the bulk of the rest of his career, definitely over the next decade. And his team hasn't been able to get it done. They made the Eastern Conference Finals a couple years back. They got obliterated by the Heat in the second round last year, just overall embarrassed. So they're starting to be one of those teams like the Raptors were for a long time, where great regular season team, they finish as the 1 seed, and then they can't get it done come playoff time. They're starting to build that reputation for themselves. And I think Giannis, given the fact that he was MVP and Depoy last year, part of a select group of guys, only Hakeem and MJ had it before that. You can make the argument LeBron should be part of that group. But either way, I mean, it's a very select group of guys. So he's already kind of vaulting into that top 30 players of all time conversation. And then obviously as he goes down the road. But if he can't win a chip, if he can't win a finals MVP, then he's going to be stuck there for the rest of his career. His legacy is going to go nowhere. So I think I would say Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Okay. Right off the bat, I'll say mine. I also had Damian Lillard in my list. And then I also had James Harden and Russell Westbrook on my list. But my number one guy is Carmelo Anthony. I think Carmelo Anthony could really benefit from winning an NBA championship. So move on from that. Mike, what are your thoughts? Who are your NBA players most in need of a championship?
So you said my two guys that I wanted to bring up, two former MVPs, Russell Westbrook and James Harden. They are literally on that cusp of they're already all-time greats, but the ring factor would take them so much farther because like these two guys already had the stats. Like their stats tell you they're top 15, 20 players of all time already. They just need the rings, the merchandise to go with it. But since you already said them, I'll bring up another guy, Chris Paul, man. Chris Paul needs a ring. He was close. He's been close with Houston, but injuries derailed him. Came back last year, showed us he could still hoop. Now he's on another team where he doesn't have to carry a huge burden. I really think he needs a ring. He's another guy who he maybe doesn't have an MVP, but he's one of the top assist guys. He's widely recognized one of the best point guards of all time. Just doesn't have that merchandise. So if it was me, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Chris Paul, these guys need rings.
Okay. No, I like those additions. Stacey, who are your players?
Unfortunately for Chris Paul, he went to the Suns. So I think that just knocks him out the ring conversation in general. Unfortunately, it does. I guess in his mind, he really don't need it. He would like a ring, but I guess he don't need it for his personal legacy. I don't know. But Melo, yeah, it'd be nice for him to get a ring, but I think we all accept the fact that he's just going to be one of those players that never going to win the championship. Number one, James Harden. James Harden definitely needs a ring, especially what's transpiring with him in Houston right now to, get him back on the positive side of things, positive side in fans' mind. He has scoring titles. He averaged, 34, 36 points per game. And you do all that and don't come away with a ring, it's just going to be like kind of detrimental to his legacy. People going to view him as that guy that he called the shots in Houston. He called the shots with the Rockets, and he didn't get it done for how long has he been there? 8 years, 9 years, something like that. So he definitely needs it. Russell Westbrook, another guy who needs a ring. Him averaging a triple-double 3 seasons in a row. He's with Washington now. It'd be nice for him to get a ring. I think Russell Westbrook gets a lot of hate for no reason just because his personality. But I think he does need it. And then another guy, and this is like an outside chance. I don't know how y'all would feel about this. Y'all haven't said his name. Just for validation purposes, Paul George. I think Paul George needs a ring. He took a lot of hate last year. call him PG 13%, way off P and all that, hitting the side of the backboard. It's just crazy. And people forget he did come back from a devastating injury. He had to come back from 2 shoulder surgeries and all that. And I think it would be like nice for him to like get a ring while he putting up his stats just to prove that he's up there. Because remember, we was talking about him being one of the best two-way players, in like years ago. So those are my players right there: James Harden, Russ, and Paul George.
I like that. Paul George, I would be surprised if he ever gets one. I don't see it happening with the Clippers. I just don't. And I just don't think he's that guy anymore. I just picture Mike in his head like when he sleeps in his dreams. It's just like Lakers winning year after year after year.
Hey, it's ring night. It's ring night. Don't have me. It's ring night.
All right, let's move on from that. Before we get into our final topic of the night, the Keyboard Warriors, we have a new sponsor on the show. We got to shout him out. Manscaped.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Contract was signed yesterday. It is official. They're sending us some of their products to try out. Mike, you were telling us earlier before this podcast started. How hyped are you?
Hey, look, I'm hyped. Anytime you get the scape up down there, get it edged up. Look, everything got to be as clean as it is up here down there. So I'm ready. I've been waiting for my package, man. I've been waiting. I'm ready.
Awesome. So we'll be able to update on that next time we record. I'm sure you guys are looking forward to Mike's thoughts on that. But let's end the episode off with some Keyboard Warriors. Mike, it's all yours.
All right, let's do it, man. I found one we're going to have to talk about, and forgive me if I say his name wrong. Amin Hassan, I'm sure everybody has heard. He went on the jump the other day and said Ja Morant is who De'Aaron Fox thinks he is. What? Like, why? I was watching this before De'Aaron Fox even responded, and I was like, damn well he shouldn't have said that. He already know he finna get some flat back. And of course, De'Aaron Fox came back and said, that boy's a B word. I know it's a little family show. I ain't gonna say it. Boy's a B word, and everybody could tell him I said that. And look, man, it was just a little bigger back and forth. So I pulled up some stats on these guys just to see how they matched up against each other. And I want to tell you guys this and then ask you a question. So far, between De'Aaron Fox and Ja Morant, there's been 4 meetings. De'Aaron Fox has won 3 of them. Ja Morant has won 1. In those games, De'Aaron Fox is averaging De'Aaron Fox is averaging 25 points a game, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals. Ja Morant is averaging 18 points, 1 rebound, 1 more assist at 6, 0 steals, 0 blocks. So, with that being said, knowing the head-to-head matchup, knowing everything you know, is De'Aaron Fox on Ja Morant's level, or is he just victim of being on a bad team? Go ahead, Jordan.
So I'll start this off by saying I would take Ja Morant over De'Aaron Fox any day of the week. I just think Ja's a better player overall. But with that said, you don't go after De'Aaron Fox like that. One, he's never done anything. He keeps his nose clean. He's not like talking trash to everyone in the NBA. It's like you have no right, no need to say something like that. It's not like he's out here saying he's better than LeBron or anything like that. He keeps his nose clean. He plays his game, and he does a great job at it. He's a good player. I just feel like that's a completely unneeded statement to make. So shame on that guy for saying that.
Yeah, I would agree. As analysts, you got to watch out when you're taking jabs at these players because some of them will definitely jab back. Stacey, let me ask you this. I mean, if De'Aaron Fox was on the Grizzlies, would they have the same success as they had with Ja Morant? What do you think?
I think the separation of Fox and Morant probably is the leadership. Like I view Ja Morant as a fantastic leader, even at a young age. But De'Aaron Fox, his problem is the Sacramento Kings. That's his problem. Like De'Aaron Fox is a fantastic player, fantastic, but he's on a team, a franchise who just awful. The head coach, Luke Walton, awful, terrible. They fired what was his name? David Yeager.
Mike Malone. Oh, okay, my bad. Go ahead.
David Yeager almost had them in the playoffs, and they let him go. And the victim of that, De'Aaron Fox, and Buddy Hield, but we ain't talking about Buddy Hield right now. But for him to say that's just an awful take. That's just brutal. Like De'Aaron Fox has been putting in work. Like, he's one of the most probably like underrated, slept on players in the NBA just because of where he is. So that's not his fault. I can't believe you say that. I think, people are caught up in the moment of Ja Morant, his flash. He is a bit more flashy, and he had an outstanding rookie season. But to say I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you, and I think the key word you said there is flashier. John Morant is definitely flashier. Also, we got to look. Last year, we were worried about Zion's injury, so who was the top rookie already? John Morant. He was getting more of those national TV games. We was hearing his name, so I think that's a big reason. Let's not also forget though, De'Aaron Fox did just get that max extension, so someone apparently thinks he's worth the money. I'll go to you, Ben. What do you think about what Amin Hassan has said? And do you think De'Aaron Fox and Ja Morant? Well, who do you think is better?
First of all, I just want to point out, I think it's funny you're kind of skirting around saying the word bitch when you just said motherfuckers like 10 minutes.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. He's like, this is a family show. In my head, I'm like, I got the F-bomb like 7 times.
And sometimes you just come out real aggressive.
But no, I mean, like, I'd say, first of all, like all you guys already said, it's pretty unwarranted for him to say that because De'Aaron Fox wasn't even part of the conversation whatsoever. And I've watched this guy. He has good takes usually, and he doesn't seem like a bad guy, but it's definitely out of left field for him to say something about De'Aaron Fox. Definitely not necessary at all. And I mean, De'Aaron Fox isn't necessarily not a very flashy player. His team just doesn't win games, and they don't get that much national attention because it's a small market team like Sacramento. But he's one of the fastest players in the league. He's pretty, for a point guard, he's a pretty high flying guy. He's just fun to watch in my opinion. But he just doesn't get that much attention because he's on the Kings, and they're not a winning team. But they were on the cusp, like Stacey said, they were on the cusp a few years back of making the playoffs, and they were a fun team to watch. They were sort of like the Grizzlies of 2018, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, Ja Morant, I would say I would rather have going forward. He's just got that sort of mentality, that it factor. He came from, like, De'Aaron Fox went to Kentucky, and that's fine. He went the one in Denver. That's cool. Ja Morant sort of had to grit it out a bit more, which I think has added to why he's been such a good leader for the Grizzlies. Because he went to Murray State, and nobody knows what that is. And they made a little bit of noise in the NCAA playoffs. They were a pretty good team. They won their conference. So, I mean, he just sort of had to grit it out a bit more. He understands the grind a bit more than De'Aaron Fox does. Because he didn't have those privileges of going to Kentucky and being on national TV and being on a team that's already expected to win games. So he's a bit more of an underdog, which people relate to, and that's why people like him so much. But to say, and I think he's better. I do. I think he's better. I'd rather have him on my team 5-10 years from now. But to say that Ja is who De'Aaron Fox thinks he is just, to me, it's disrespectful, not necessary at all.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a great point. At Murray State, it was about the grind. They came out of nowhere. They're in the tournament. Who is this Ja Morant? De'Aaron Fox was in Kentucky with Malik Monk, I believe. They were well known. They were a lot of the talks around that time was, oh, who's better, Lonzo Ball or De'Aaron Fox? Also, a side note, it's crazy. De'Aaron Fox got an extension. Another guy who got one before Lonzo Ball. But not to throw any salt on him, but I think that's a great point. And again, like we've all said, being in Sacramento, let's not forget, they also have Marvin Bagley. Wasn't he a top pick? We don't hear much about him. Harrison Barnes is down there, another guy who's, I mean, picks tend to go down there and just hopefully hope they make it out at some point. So I think that's a really good point. But that is the Keyboard Warrior segment. Passing it back to you, Jordan.
Awesome. That's going to do it for episode 50. Thank you guys again for listening, watching to us. We really appreciate the support. Moving on from episode 50, we have some former NBA players lined up to come onto the podcast, so look forward to that. Should be a good time. Thank you guys for listening, watching, however you are taking in all this content. As always, my name is Jordan Daly. With me this week we had Mike White, Stacey Collier, and Ben Okazawa. We will see you guys next time. Peace.